Dear colleagues, Ministry of Defense spokesperson Mr. Vilyen Pidgornyy will speak on Russian military aggression in eastern Ukraine. Mr. Pidgornyy, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me give you a weekly update on the events of the military conflict and Russian aggression against Ukraine between October 31st and November 6th. Russia-backed militants kept on violating ceasefire on a daily basis across the whole front line. Overall, the number of hostile attacks registered was between 31 on November 3rd at the lowest point and 52 on November 6th at its highest. Russian proxy contingent continued to use heavy weapons banned by Minsk agreements, especially 82mm and 120mm mortars, as well as 120 and 152mm artillery, including tanks. On November 2nd, militants launched a salvo from Grad multiple rocket launchers in the vicinity of Krymsky village, Luhansk sector. The vast majority of ceasefire violations took place in the Mariupol sector, stretching from Mariinka and Krasnogorivka all the way to Talakivka and Shirokino on the Azov Sea coast. Donetsk sector remains one of the tensest areas. Avdiivka, Gorlivka perimeter, and Luhansk village were all major flashpoints with militants firing from mortars and artillery throughout last week. In the Luhansk sector, geography of ceasefire violations has expanded. Tensions persisted in the area of Stanitsa Luhanske, Shestye, Krymske, and Popasna village, including Novozvanivka and Novoalexandrivka. Ukraine's military intelligence reports of casualties among Russian proxies. The total number is 16 dead and 22 injured. Out of them, 6 militants were killed in action and 13 were wounded in action. Russian proxy forces suffer casualties in major flashpoints, especially in the area of Avdiivka in the Donetsk sector and the Azov Sea coast in the Mariupol sector. The rest of the enemy casualties, 10 dead and 9 injured, were non-combat casualties. Intelligence provided additional data on one of the militants. A high-ranking Russian proxy, Oleg Zharikov, head of the so-called engineering service of the 2nd Army Corps of Russian occupation contingent operating in Luhansk region, committed suicide. Last week, 3 Ukrainian servicemen were killed in action, 17 were wounded in action. 1 serviceman was injured in booby trap explosion. Our hearts go out to the families and friends of the fallen Ukrainian heroes. 4 civilians were injured last week in the whole ATO area due to hostile attacks of the enemy. A man and a woman were injured in Krasnogorivka. 2 more men were injured in Avdiivka and Mariinka, respectively. 9 private homes, 3 buildings, and 17 infrastructure facilities were damaged as a result of militant attacks. Vinogradna village in the Mariupol sector suffered the most. 7 residential households and a gas pipeline were damaged there. It is a recurring trend that militants tend to target energy supply lines in both Donetsk and Mariupol sectors. There were over 15 incidents of hostile fire that threatened provision of basic services to civilians living in frontline towns and villages. Last week, the school in Stanitsa Luhanske was subjected to militant fire. The incident took place at night time from November 2nd to 3rd, so luckily no one was injured. Over the week, Ukrainian authorities arranged access and safe passage through government checkpoints on the contact line of 48 trucks loaded with humanitarian aid for civilian population living in the occupied areas in eastern Ukraine. The total payload of aid exceeds 835 tons, including food, baby food, construction materials, medical equipment, and supplies. Humanitarian assistance was provided by the International Committee of the Red Cross, as well as by the Ukrainian charity organizations. That'll be all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Pidgornyy. Looking forward to seeing you here next Monday.